I'm Eric Anderson. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, clearing the air. Muffled messages from police choppers confuse people on the ground. The plan to help them understand what's being said.
President Obama's executive immigration action faces a federal appeals panel tomorrow. I'm Peggy Pico with the impact of immigration programs in San Diego County. Then, how worried should you be about sharks in San Diego waters? Not much, says experts. We'll show you why just ahead.
I know that. I know these things because I'm boss queen, so I know this now. I'm going to let them eat dinner. You're welcome. They can eat dinner, and I might even give them some cookies.
On deadline for Comic-Con, where costumes, music, and clever ideas take center stage. The Masquerade group on the eve of a make-it-work moment. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Dwayne Brown is off. A security breach has left more than 21 million people at risk for identity theft. The Obama administration says hackers stole Social Security numbers and grabbed other sensitive information when government computer systems were compromised. The Office of Personnel Management says people who applied for background investigations are affected. Investigators say China's government was behind the security breach. Military and community members gathered today at Miramar National Cemetery to pay a long overdue tribute. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy tells us the remains of a Medal of Honor recipient laid in darkness in an unmarked grave.
A Medal of Honor hero once forgotten is remembered. Army Sergeant Charles Schroeder was a cavalryman from the Civil War era. Today, he was given the war hero recognition he earned 150 years ago. Hundreds paid their respects at the Miramar National Cemetery, including 2 Medal of Honor recipients, veterans young and old, and 36 Army members from Fort Hood, Texas, and Fort Irwin, California, including Brigadier General Joseph Martin.
Today, we bring Sergeant Schroeder to a place that's distinguished and right for him to rest, a place he properly deserves. And it goes without saying that here in the United States, he fought for his American dream and gave all of us a little piece of it.
Schroeder received the Medal of Honor in 1869 for gallantry in action in a fierce battle in Arizona during the Indian Wars. But for decades, his ashes went unclaimed. They were stored in an unmarked communal crypt at Greenwood Cemetery in southeastern San Diego. Earlier this week, his Army comrades reclaimed their brother in arms. It was just recently that the Congressional Medal of Honor Society traced Schroeder's remains to that unmarked crypt.
It was down a long, dark hallway. The workers pulled out a casket, and in that casket, once they opened it up, were a number of remains. One of the boxes was his, marked very clearly with his name. It was on top, thank goodness.
Bill Hurd is the spokesman for the Miramar National Cemetery Support Foundation. He spent months researching and poring over military reports and historical archives,
showing that Sergeant Schroeder did deserve to be buried in the Veterans Administration as a Medal of Honor recipient.
Hurd had to prove to the VA that the Schroeder at Greenwood was the same soldier given the nation's highest combat award.
Not just where he served, but what was going on at the time that he served there. When he was in the Civil War, where did he fight, and what were those battles like? One of the frustrating things about this whole research is that we don't have a picture of him, we don't have any letters to him or from him to sort of understand what his personality was.
Still, Hurd was able to compile a detailed history and physical description of Schroeder.
He was a guy about my size, about 5'6". He weighed 135 pounds. He had brown hair, brown eyes. He had, at the end of his career, he had bullet wounds, he had saber scars. He was a tough little guy.
Born on the 4th of July in 1837, Schroeder immigrated to the United States from Germany before the Civil War.
He came here alone, without any family. He never married, he never had children.
He enlisted in the Army at 25 and served in the military for 3 decades.
How he managed to survive all of those years, all those 30 years, in some of the most intense battles of the Civil War and the hardships that were experienced by those who fought in the West.
He did survive, and he lived to be 84. He spent the last 3 years of his life in San Diego's Mission Hills. For Hurd, a retired Navy captain, the investigation into Schroeder has been fascinating and emotional.
Sadness because he lay among others whose remains had never been claimed in an unmarked crypt for 94 years.
Hurd says he also feels regret that the cavalryman was almost forgotten.
And then pride that we're able to sort of bring him back to life, at least momentarily, for this generation.
Schroeder is the first Medal of Honor recipient to be buried at the Miramar Veterans Cemetery. He's no longer forgotten. His distinctive headstone is inscribed in gold and bears the Medal of Honor symbol. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley signed a bill this afternoon to take down the Confederate flag from State House grounds.
The Confederate flag is coming off the grounds of the South Carolina State House. So tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., we will see the Confederate flag come down.
She was surrounded by family members of those killed in an historically black church last month in Charleston. Efforts to remove the flag go back to the civil rights movement. That push was reignited when the photos emerged of the confessed killer posing with the flag online. A federal appeals court will take up arguments tomorrow on President Barack Obama's executive actions on immigration. The new policies are designed to save millions of immigrants from deportation by expanding the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, or DACA, and by offering temporary protections for parents of those in the U.S. legally. But the program has been on hold since 26 states filed a lawsuit arguing the president was overstepping his authority. Meanwhile, Peggy Pico takes a look at a new survey on the impact of the program.
The U.S. Citizenship Immigration Services says about 665,000 people received deferred action since it went into effect 3 years ago, which offers temporary protections to those who were brought to the U.S. as children. UC San Diego Assistant Political Science Professor Tom Wong is here with the results of a new survey on the economic impact of the program. And Tom, your study surveyed more than 450 DACA recipients nationwide. What did it tell you about what did these people tell you about the effect of the DACA program and how it's been for them?
Yes, so the survey results add to a growing literature on the positive economic impact of deferred action. So one of the most striking results has to do with wage increase. So what we found is that the average hourly wage increase for DACA beneficiaries is about 45%. And this, we don't know if this is a plateau or if the number can actually creep higher over time because the program is still relatively new. But what we found is that those who were working before DACA averaged about $11 in terms of their hourly wage. Post-DACA, it's closer to $17.
And one of the other arguments in this lawsuit over Obama's executive actions is that in Texas, the policies, the extensions would cause a burden, a financial burden to the state of Texas and other states as well. Your study specifically looked at the economic impacts in Texas. What did you find?
Yes, so Texas has a narrow argument about being harmed by issuing driver's licenses to deferred action recipients. So Texas subsidizes the costs of driver's licenses at about $100 a pop. And so we asked, well, what are deferred action beneficiaries doing with their driver's licenses? And so what we found is that about a third of those deferred action beneficiaries in Texas who have driver's licenses are subsequently buying cars, just like you or I might buy cars, bought our first car after we received our driver's license. And the average cost of the car purchased is about $10,000, which means at 6.25% sales tax contribution to Texas, Texas is actually gaining $674 per car purchased in its coffers.
And every time, so it's getting back into the economy according to that. Now, you're doing a broader study. You're also doing a broader study on this. Tell us about that.
Yes, so this is part of an ongoing study to try to assess how deferred action impacts the lives of those who transition from undocumented to some sort of lawful status. So what the study actually works up to is by 2017, we'll have the longer run effects of DACA itself. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about DAPA and expanded DACA as well, and we hope to include over 100,000 individuals in the study.
And what do you hope to ultimately accomplish with this study?
Well, the goal is to sort of provide a fuller portrait of how having legal status affects the lives of individuals. We can think about that fuller portrait being about dollars in terms of economic impact, but we're also interested in broader sort of benefits that accrue to individuals. For example, how individuals interact with their own families and in society more generally.
Well, right now this expanded DACA program is on hold. It was supposed to go into effect this year. How are people telling you they're being affected by the delay?
So the delay is creating a lot of uncertainty. So prior to the court decision, a lot of organizations, nationally as well as locally, were bringing undocumented immigrants to community centers and having information sessions, essentially getting folks to prepare their documents in order to submit their applications for deferred action. A lot of that work has died down, but a lot of what the initial interest over the programs that still continues. So people are still wanting that opportunity to adjust their status. They're just uncertain about whether or not that will be possible in the short term.
Well, what do you say to opponents to the president's expanded legal action on this, that these programs encourage illegal immigration?
Yeah, there is very little data to suggest that any type of legalization program incentivizes further undocumented immigration. So that was one of the arguments that was put about during the increase in unaccompanied minors last year at the southern border. And so I actually did a study with the Center for American Progress on that question specifically because DACA was thrown out as one of the drivers of the increase in unaccompanied minors. And the data just didn't sort of pan that out. And so if we think that undocumented immigrants who want to come to this country will come despite what obstacles we put in front of them, then we can change policy, but it doesn't affect the motivation of individuals to want to come, whether it be for a better life for their children, education, etc. And so these programs are really just focused on those who are currently here who need a shot at a better life.
All right. Tom Wong, thank you so much.
Thank you.
A tapped-out turf rebate budget has the Los Angeles-based Metropolitan Water District halting its program. The district will stop taking applications. Rebates have been awarded to projects that removed more than 150 million square feet of turf. The district covers more than 19 million customers, including those in San Diego County. Forget showers at the beach. California state parks officials shut off the water in public outdoor showers at state beaches. It's the latest effort to conserve water. Experts say the change should save up to 18 million gallons of water a year. An update on the water theft lawsuit filed against actor Tom Selleck. The LA Times reporting that attorneys representing Selleck and the Callejas Municipal Water District in Ventura County announced there is a tentative settlement. The district filed a complaint against the Magnum PI television star Monday. They claimed he stole water by the truckload from a fire hydrant for his ranch in Hidden Valley. Terms of the tentative settlement are confidential until they're final. Settlement goes before the Water District Board for approval next Wednesday. Police say it's for clarity's sake. San Diego Police Department officials announcing that loudspeaker public address messages from the agency's helicopter crews are now going to be available online. Did you catch that? Muffled messages have confused people in the past. The department says when you hear the helicopter, look at the police Twitter account, or you can log on to nextdoor.com and look for the helicopter announcement posting. Huge crowds descending on downtown San Diego today as the first full day of Comic-Con International got underway. Bill Murray made his first ever appearance at the event, but you won't find the colorful event spilling over into nearby Barrio Logan. KPBS reporter Matt Bowler has that story.
Comic-Con has taken over downtown San Diego, especially here at its epicenter, the Convention Center, right on Harbor Drive, but less than a mile down the road. Some Barrio Logan businesses felt like they were being left out, so they created Chicano Con to celebrate Latino popular culture.
Is from this roof of tops from our homes here, we can see the Convention Center.
David Favela owns one of Barrio Logan's newest businesses, Border X Brewing. He's hosting the first ever Chicano Con. Favela says Barrio Logan has a rich artistic heritage that's being overlooked.
There's no effort that we're aware of, at least, of some integration or some outreach or something to our community.
Barrio Logan artist Mario Chacon says the institution of Comic-Con isn't deliberately excluding the Chicano community.
But I think there's also a legacy of racism, there's a legacy of bias that's pervasive, you know, conscious or unconscious, and that prevents people from looking outside of their very narrow perspective.
Favela says since the Chicano Park protests in 1970, Barrio Logan has held on to its history of fighting for recognition.
And it literally took Chicano Park here, you know, in the protests that happened there to say, hey, you know, we are here, you can't walk over us, and we are a community, and we're not going away.
Favela says today the fight has evolved.
I like to joke around, call it Chicano 2.0. One where we're moving beyond political statements and we're moving into economic statements.
For Favela, Barrio Logan is starting to flex its economic muscle to join the Comic-Con fun.
To be honest, there's no animosity towards Comic-Con. We think it's a wonderful institution. I would love to work with them.
Chacon sees a big future with Comic-Con.
I think Comic-Con has a huge potential to not only be inclusive, but to help develop the artistic potential of people of color.
Chicano Con is on both Saturday and Sunday, starting at around 2 at the Border X Brewery, just south of Chicano Park on Logan Avenue. Matt Bowler, KPBS News.
Meanwhile, the second annual Her Universe fashion show takes over Comic-Con tonight. But the longer tradition for costumers and cosplayers at Comic-Con is the Masquerade on Saturday. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando checks in with one Masquerade group prepping for the show.
Masquerade can be something as simple as walking on stage and showing off your costume. I think that when it's something at the level of Comic-Con, it's a really big stage. I think that bar room 20 is 6,000 people or 4,000 people. That's a lot of people.
So you better bring your A game and plan to enhance your costumes with a skit, music, dance, and clever ideas. Arabella Benson is a Masquerade veteran, and she recalled the costumes she worked on in 2011.
We came up with this group, and it was called Arkham Tango, and we did this really cool tango, and we thought we were the coolest, sexiest thing that ever was, and then we won Best Humorous. So we learned a lesson there, and that's okay because I got to tango with Batman with a rose in my teeth, so you can't go better than that.
Then Benson and her friends kicked it up a notch in 2013 when they did Marvel Mumbai and a Bollywood version of The Avengers. This year, it's a Rococo version of the X-Men called Let Them Eat Cake Presents X-Men Days of Future Past.
Our costumes are on the verge, the very, very verge of almost being done, but we're down to the little fiddly bits like the hems. We're adding some more trim because of the nature of our dresses. There can't really be enough trim, so we're adding more and more trim as we go on. If I've learned anything, it's you have to roll with the punches. The beautiful silk wings I was painting has not dried, so I cannot set the dye with the iron. So that whole idea has been scrapped. We lost our Wolverine because he got a nice high-paying job, and as much fun as masquerading in costumes are, work and money is a little bit better. So my husband, who is going to be the Beast, is now become Wolverine, because that's kind of our skit. Our joke is that Wolverine gets sent too far back by Kitty Pryde. Instead of going to 1973, he goes to 1773. And so it's getting kind of tense. The sun's going down, and I'm counting down the hours and thinking, okay, I've given up on checklists. I have Yuli, who still doesn't have sleeves on her dress, and she thinks I don't know, but there are no sleeves on her dress.
No, it will be done. I'm a fast sewer, so.
And Aaron's hair's not done. I'm going to let them eat dinner. You're welcome. They can eat dinner, and I might even give them some cookies. It will all work out because it's a hobby and it's supposed to be fun.
The team behind X-Men Days of Future Past will be bringing their Rococo dresses to the Masquerade on Saturday and hoping to take home another prize. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Comic-Con continues through Sunday at the San Diego Convention Center. The Masquerade is Saturday night in the ballroom 20, with a satellite feed broadcasting live in the Sales Pavilion. Recent shark attacks off the North and South Carolina coast have some questioning how safe San Diego waters are. Peggy Pico explains the risks and the realities of sharks here.
From the TV series Shark Week to the over-the-top Sharknado movies and recent reports of shark attacks off U.S. coastlines, fascination and fear of sharks seems like a summer pastime. But in reality, shark attacks and fatalities in San Diego are very rare. Here to help separate shark fact from fiction are my guests, shark expert and research biologist Heidi Dewar with Southwest Fisheries Science Center, and James Gartland, Marine Safety Lieutenant with San Diego Fire Rescue. And Heidi, what kind of sharks are in San Diego waters?
There are quite a few different species over a range of sizes. You would have everything from horn sharks in the kelp forest to seven gills all the way up to the occasional white shark visitor.
Yeah, I think we're looking at some video of some seven gills here. Well, which ones are most dangerous to people? Are they all?
No, they're not. The three most dangerous species in general are white sharks, bull sharks, and tiger sharks, and we only have white sharks here, but most of the white sharks off at least off Southern California would be juveniles, so not in a size range that we would be concerned about.
Sure, tell us about that. So, you know, we all see the movies and things about the great whites, but really the sharks here that we're seeing as far as the white sharks are babies.
Yeah, the vast majority would be juveniles and young of the year. We have the Southern California bite from Point Conception all the way down to Vizcaíno Bay actually is a nursery area, and it behooves the mature sharks to put their pups where there aren't a lot of adult sharks, so we would mostly get the smaller sharks.
And James, the last confirmed shark fatality around here was in Solana Beach back in 2008. How common are shark encounters here on the coast here?
They're not very common. We break them up into three categories. It's possible shark sightings, confirmed shark sightings, and then shark attack. The majority of the time we get possible shark sightings and some confirmed shark sightings, but it's not very common. I would say one a year is about average.
Yeah, one a year for how many people are in the water. And Heidi, we've had especially warm water off our coast this spring and summer. It also spikes our temperatures in August and September. How does that affect the kinds of sharks that we can expect to see here or that are swimming out there?
Interestingly, we actually have a research survey that's been out on the waters over the last 20 days, and most of the sharks we would normally see would be like makos and blue sharks, and they've seen almost none of those. The catch numbers have been really low, but they actually caught a smooth hammerhead shark for the first time in 21 years of doing the survey. So,
and where was that?
Just off of San Diego. So what we're seeing is an influx of animals from farther south coming up into the warmer waters and sort of more of an exit of the normal sharks.
I see. Now, James, in the very unlikely event that one time a year that you might see a shark or be attacked by a shark, what should you do if you're out in the waters?
Well, if you would see a shark, you know, you want to report it immediately. Obviously, you want to get out of the water. If you are attacked by a shark, which doesn't happen once a year, only the sightings are once a year, but if you're attacked by a shark, obviously get out of the water, keep your eye on the shark, you know, fight to get away from the shark, and then seek treatment immediately. Contact the authorities, contact the lifeguards, get on your VHF if you're on a vessel, and let people know so we can warn others and clear the areas where the shark has been sighted, attacked.
And that was my next question. If somebody sees a shark, when do you close the beach? What do you do on the beach?
We do. If it's a confirmed shark sighting, we'll send out air assets. We'll send a helicopter out to try and get a visual on the shark. We'll send a vessel out. And when it's a confirmed shark sighting, what we'll do is close the beach a mile north and a mile south, and we'll notify other beaches. We'll put out a public safety announcement, and we'll get people out of the water.
And kind of track that. Well, besides sharks, Heidi, what are some other local sea life here that could pose some injuries or danger to people who are getting out in the surf?
A couple things would be stingrays, and certainly there are a fair number of stingray stings every year, which is another, it's a ray or skate that will poke its stinger into somebody's foot usually, and then jellyfish. Those would be the two things that, and neither one of those are fatal or more than just temporarily painful.
Yeah, and James, how about you? The most common threats and injuries that you deal with, let's say, during the typical summer here?
But the beach in general, it's rip currents. You know, people get caught up in rip currents and get pulled out, and that's the most common, that people need to be rescued out of rip currents. As far as animal interactions, I would say stingrays are probably the most popular. Stingrays and jellyfish are the most popular
popular
animal interactions. Yeah.
Popular that you don't want. All right, James Gartland and Heidi Dewar, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, on the next News Hour, in his new book, former President Jimmy Carter looks back at a full life, Reflections at 90. That's Thursday on the PBS News Hour.
More mild weather is on tap for us over the weekend. You can expect temperatures to be in the mid-70s by the weekend, and sun coming out on Sunday. Mix of sun and clouds along the coast with temperatures there in the 70s and climbing up into the 80s by Sunday. It is going to be clear in the mountains. Temperatures, of course, in the 70s and 80s. Nice sleeping weather up there. But out in the desert, triple-digit temperatures, as you would expect this time of year, overnight lows in the 70s. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back here tomorrow night. Have a great evening.